Welcome to Information Session Marketing and Branding. My name is Ndimane Rapori and I'm the founder of Youth Evolve. And today we are, with our marketing and branding team, and also we have a guest, Chris Cabo, with us. So I'll just want you guys to introduce yourself before we start. Zama, you can start and introduce the others since you are our leader.
Oh, am I? Can you guys
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ndimanaye, for today's session. I'm very excited. My name, as Ndima has already said, my name is Zamaswazi Molehe, and some people know me as Mel. I am currently the Youth Evolve head of marketing or marketing director. I am just simply a young woman that is looking to just make an impact in the world. And, I do this in three ways, and that is through my family. I have two gorgeous children and an amazing husband. And my family, of course, is my big why. And secondly, I am an entrepreneur, so I'm the founder and managing director of a marketing agency called I Am Brands. We basically provide services that you cultivate, nurture, and maintain relationships between brands and their customers. And as I've already said, I also am very passionate about the youth, and social impact, of course. And hence, when I saw the amazing work that Youth Evolve does, I really wanted to get involved and get my 2 cents worth. Give my 2 cents worth in terms of my experience and. Of course, through my business, I Am Brands, I employ mostly young people. And since the company started since 2018, we have employed well over about 60 people in the business. So we are very, very proud of the work that we do at Youth Evolve. And this just goes to show my passion when it comes to, sharing information and sharing my experience with the youth, because my road has really been unconventional, and it's very important to me that I share my story and my journey. I think everything else I will cover probably in my presentation. I have got my team, my amazing team here. Unjabulo, my right-hand man. I think Jabulo will go through and kind of introduce himself. He is our digital director or digital manager. And I've got Ukris Kabo, who is an amazing, fellow business person or fellow businesswoman. And I think she will also introduce herself. But I think Jabulo, you can go first for now.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Sama. Okay, Murolong and Chris. I think let's go to Chris first, our guest. Chris, how are you?
Good. Ladies first. Muralong, you're coming up, I promise. This is our month.
Yes, this is our man.
My bad on Women's Month. Oh my God. I just love my team so much, guys.
Thank you
My
so much for the great
apologies.
introduction. Thank you for the forum. I'm super excited to be here today. Me and Mel have been working quite closely together over the years, and we've been sharing our experiences and our collaboration ourselves. And our passion again is the youth. My forte and my skill set is essentially a media strategist. And what I want to impart onto the youth is the empowerment of owning your ideas. In this technological age, the era of information only belonging to a social class that is, a certain way. We are living in an information age where information is almost readily available, and you can craft your narrative, you can craft your vision, you can craft your presence in this world in a very meaningful, tangible, and positive way. without having to destroy your environment, destroy your mind, destroy your family. And you don't have to listen to one set of narratives, and you can make critical decisions for yourself as you flow. My company is Peer and Influence, which is again about peer-to-peer marketing and being influential in the sector that you're in. We started the company in 2018, only coming out of my skill set as a professional since about 2004. Yeah, it's been, I'm ancient, but so I'm not in the youth sector anymore. However, I am closely working with you. I am employing as well, and always looking for great innovative thinkers, innovative implementers, because it's not so much just the idea, it is the implementation of that idea and how it lands and how you're responsible for the ideology and the execution of your plans and what they're supposed to bring in society as a whole and its positive impact. I will go through my presentation and tell you my journey and my thoughts as well, and how I see the sector leading in terms of digital marketing and where we're going. I'm free to have any questions and any contributions I can make to you. I've got over 18, 20 years experience. So I really feel like I've got a little bit of knowledge I can impart, but I'm always learning, and hopefully I can learn as well. But thank you so much for this forum. Thank you everybody for inviting me. Thank you, Youth Evolve, for involving me in this presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And the last person, not the least, the man of the moment this time, because like it's a woman's month. So Njabulo, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Morolong Moratua, digital designer for Youth Evolve. I have been with Youth Evolve, if I'm not mistaken, since February. I am a digital designer. What's that like? I think now 7 years of experience. I studied multimedia. So media creation is more my specialty. So I'm kind of more the content creation person, rather than, specifically marketing strategies. That's not so much my forte. But I do hope that I can at least impart what knowledge I do have on the content creation process, on how to make the material that people use in their marketing and branding strategies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, now we will start with the presentations, and we're going to start in the order that we did the introduction. So we're going to start with Zama, who's going to do a presentation. Okay. I'm going to share with you guys screen. Okay, you can be you can start. It's getting ready. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Not yet.
I can see the screen.
Oh, perfect. There it is. I think there's a bit of a delay.
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So today I really just want to share a little bit about, the different parts on embarking on a journey to make an impactful, career within the marketing space or the marketing industry. If you can go on to the next slide. Okay, so as I've already said, my name is Zamaswazi Molehe, and just to add on to what I have previously said in my introduction, I have within the consumer marketing industry about 12 plus years. Just a little bit on how I ended up in marketing. I had a really rough start, as any other Black child, or any other young person. You really just want to do what pleases your parents. So in matric, it was really fashionable back then to, want to do engineering, and it was paying. And, the parents will tell you, hey, go into the engineering stream. It is paying. You'll make a good career for yourself. But for a person who's flamboyant, who talks a lot like me, I quickly found it to be very boring and very rigid. So I had a really rough start to my career. And then further down, 2 years later into the engineering field, I told my parents, I cannot continue down this path. I realized that I don't like being in boots. I don't like being burnt in the sun, and it just wasn't my thing. It just wasn't my thing. So I quickly, it wasn't that quick actually. I had to find a way through which I can, make a living for myself. Since now, it really was something that my parents were not expecting me to go for. So I later on, a few years down the line, I studied business management at UNISA, and that really just put the foundation for me to kind of grow my love for people, my love for marketing. It really allowed me to flourish when I completed this certification course. And then now I am at the verge of completing my law degree. Why law? Because running your own business, you tend to realize that actually the lawyers cost quite a lot. It's much better if you if you know the law yourself. And I also am very passionate about how I can make impact. So I'm hoping that this is another avenue that I can make impact. And then I have held multiple positions, starting from a promoter, obviously without having a marketing anything at that time. I had to kind of find ways of how I can kind of get in the industry. And I just knew there was one company I wanted to work for, and I just aimed for it. And I went and I said, I want to be a promoter. And from there, I was able to kind of grow through the ranks through hard work and sheer just resilience. I was then promoted to market development manager. Further on, I was a specialist trainer, and then thereafter a national account manager. When I then started my own business, officially left the company in 2019. I have worked with a myriad of brands from multiple industries. I will not name them. It's some of your biggest brands in the industry. Why marketing, and what is marketing? We can move on to the next slide, Ndie. Okay, I am not able to see the next slide on my side.
Yeah, it hasn't. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so assuming that in our audience, of course, our biggest thing at Youth Evolve is that we deal with the youth, and our strategy is really to make an influence where it counts. Assuming that in the audience we have people who are considering going into the marketing stream, what exactly is marketing? So marketing is essentially just the strategic process of taking a brand, promoting it, selling it, and distributing products and services to meet a specific pool of clients' needs. It's not just, many people when they think marketing, they think advertisement, but it is really not about advertisement only. It is really just about creating connections between brands and their customers. So just a few examples of services within the marketing profession. It includes, of course, advertising. It is social media, as the world has changed into more of a digital age. It includes content creation, search engine optimization, email marketing, event marketing, market research, brand and identity, PR. It's just a multifaceted field. Next slide, please. Okay, one of the greatest marketing legends is a guy I really admire named Seth Godin. So Seth Godin says that marketing is really a contest for people's attention. So many brands. I don't know if any of you have noticed that every time you Google something, all of a sudden, let's say you Google shoes, all of a sudden when you get into Facebook, you are completely bombarded with the same type of shoes from different stores. That is one of the ways in which different brands or different different companies are trying to compete for your attention, and that is essentially what he is saying. And then also how we it through marketing, or part of the functions of marketing is for us to tell the stories that the brands have, to tell the brand stories, or to tell people stories through the brands. And one of the ways through which we do that is really making sure that we understand the consumer that we are speaking to. We also understand what the brand is all about. It's quite more detailed than how I am going to put it today in a very short 10 minutes presentation. But the next slide really just showcases some of the brands that I believe are telling really great stories. And hence you can see they are landing themselves on the top 10 strongest South African brands for 2022. And some of my some of the brands that really inspire me are Coca-Cola. There is no person around the world who does not know what Coca-Cola does, and that is really just the work that the marketing behind the scenes that the marketing does. And Chicken Licken does really some great stuff. They tell some truly South African stories in a very fun and hilarious way, but the whole aim is to land a particular message, and that's how brands continue to innovate in order for them to build some kind of equity attached to their brands. Hence, you get these top 10 strongest South African brands for the year of 2022. It's not surprising that Capitec is ranked at number one. There's lots of efforts, and there's the marketing strategy there is very clear. The consumer is very clear on what the value that Capitec brings to the table. So this is just a list of 10, of course, but it's just if now that you've seen the different logos that we have placed here, you will then hopefully that plants some kind of if a seed at the back of your mind to think, oh, if I'm seeing an advert, it is because the marketing team is aiming to build somewhat of equity that will land the brand to some of the strongest brands within the country and hopefully globally. And then to be a marketer, you need to have some necessary skills, just like any profession. In order to be an expert or to build expertise, you have to, there's some certain skills that are just non-negotiable. I have done a bit of, the list is longer, but I think these are like the top 7 that you can, definitely you would need to have in order for you to be successful within the field. So marketing, of course, as I said, brands like Chicken Licken, they do ads that are very, very, very creative and out of the box, are very hilarious. They truly understand who their customer is. So in order for one to be extremely or to be somewhat successful in marketing, you have got to have tons of creativity. If innovation is your thing, if you see something being done a certain way and you think that it could be done better, and that illustrates that you've got tons of creativity. We innovate a lot in marketing, and we go according to what the market trends are telling us. We use data, and we monitor the campaigns that we put to our audiences. That means that it is essential for us to be able to read this data, because from this data we are then able to extrapolate how to craft specific messages and who to actually direct these messages to. So then prior to you even it's one thing to have creativity and be able to read numbers and make sense of them, but it is very important for you to then say, how do I communicate these numbers? How do I communicate this research and turn it into tangible spoken word or written word? You must be able to or skillfully or resourcefully craft messages and ways of presenting these messages to either the right audience, to either your executive team, even your team. You must be able to communicate quite proficiently within the field. Strategic thinking really is more about how you are able to identify how you are able to segment your goals into short-term and long-term okay, how you are able to segment your goals into long-term and short-term, and be able to then craft the necessary marketing strategies to meet those goals, or those business goals. You must really be able to, for you to apply the strategy, you must be able to then identify what specific challenges a specific brand is facing, and then you must be able to find the right solutions, or you must be able to identify the right key the right key to be able to solve the problem that the brand may have. It could be a vast number of problems, but it is very important to be able to identify the right problem to solve at a specific time in order to achieve specific business goals. And then, as I said, marketing trends previously. So from your analytical abilities, you are then able to see from the marketing trends that we are now moving into in fact, for the last couple of years, we have been transitioning into more of a digital community. And with that being said, companies that adapted 10, 15 years ago are better adapt to the environment that is now very much digital, digital centered. You will see that since 2020, a lot of businesses have had to pivot how they communicate to their consumer. And if you were, a marketing person and you did not evolve with the times, then you would have been left behind, which is why it's important to have digital skills. These are with having digital skills, which I think my team will be able to cover, and Chris will also be able to kind of go deeper into what digital marketing actually entails and how it helps to actually have digital skills. But with that being said, in a digital world, you have to be able to be agile. So being agile means that you are able to quickly adapt to a changing environment. You adapt your strategy as a team, you adapt your strategy as a brand, and you basically reposition yourself to better give yourself an advantage at winning in an evolving marketing environment. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so let's say now, how do you get to the point where you are a successful marketing person? Really, there is two ways that I feel have been, placed before me in my career. It is the conventional way of going through the marketing stream, and then there's the unconventional way, which is the conventional way would be your of course, education is extremely important. Education is extremely important, and it forms really the crux of a holistic or a holistic marketing career. So obviously you would need a marketing diploma or a marketing degree from any university. You could pursue a bigger marketing degree that is about a marketing degree could be anything between actually it's about a 3-year or 4-year degree. It could be a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. You could pursue a BBA, which is a Bachelor of Business Administration, and your major or your focus could be in marketing, and then of course the Bachelor of Arts in Marketing or Communications. And it is lovely because once you have completed that academic study, then you are then able to kind of occupy positions such as a brand manager, a marketing manager, a digital manager, content marketing manager, or like a PR manager. And nowadays, e-commerce managers and of course digital marketing specialists are really in a very they're better positioned if they have taken up additional resource additional certification or education that will basically better position them in the field. Okay, and then the other way would be the unconventional route. If you can go to the next slide. So the unconventional route. I am a marketer. I don't do things very, the normal way. And with, I think with any circumstance that gets put in your way, it's very important that you find, we live through adversity, but it's very important that you find a way in which you still achieve your goals. So the unconventional way, in order for you to be successful in within any career, it is very important that you have a good mixture of academic, academic or theoretical knowledge, but it's very important that you are able to then have that skill to apply that knowledge, and that is usually more from a practical experience. So through the mixture of the two aspects of a successful career, you're then able to get, your hardcore skills, which are more your data analytics, your ability to take theoretical information, analyze it, and be able to kind of and then transfer it into the soft skills where you are then able to communicate it, and you are able to sell a certain idea, and you are able to network with the right people within the industry to be better able to grow. Now, I took the practical experience route because, as I had previously explained, that the situation just didn't work out very well for me. I did not like my initially chosen career, and the only way I could do it, the only way I could grow was for me to look for opportunities where I was able to have that hands-on experience in order for me to kickstart my career. How that really benefited me is really, without the degree, I was then able to lend myself and be a continuous learner. I was able to kind of learn on the job. And it is normal for us marketing people. We start as promoters, and it's normal for us to kind of do the entry level jobs, in order for us to progress through the ranks. However, it's normal for people that have completed a degree to kind of go into like some kind of an internship. But if you are like me and you do not have another alternative of going and getting that degree, there is other ways in which you can get relevant experience, such as learnerships. I have heard of an organization called iLearn, where you can then get an NQF level 4 certification in sales and marketing. You can get a part-time job, like I did some retail jobs, I did some promoter jobs, but the whole point was for me to get the experience and to understand what essentially is needed to be, a marketer in the end. So the whole reason why I had to find find a way outside of me providing for myself was really, I really, really loved the idea of selling. I selling products, of creating and innovating ways in which I can marry a product to a person. I really wanted to do that at that time. And volunteer opportunities are always there. For example, at Youth Evolve, it's a non-profit organization, but the great exposure that you get here is the fact that you get to work with people like Chris, people like Njabulo, people like myself. You get to have the practical experience. We do every now and then have interns in the different departments at Youth Evolve. We have in our HR Umbali, and we have recently just added a few more other team members that have joined us, as to assist. This is a very practical way to gain very valuable information. And also through PR and advertising agencies, they always are looking for entry level a pair of hands, if I may put it that way. There is free courses as well that you can also take, where you are able to kind of then build somewhat of an academic foundation to better enable you to be employable. Of course, as I said already, that education is pretty much very important. It forms a really solid foundation. The unconventional route is the long route, and it's a very, very what's this? It's a very strenuous, it's not an easy route, but eventually you get to the point where you need to get to. In a digital world, there is so many free courses, and as I've already just highlighted my career, I only started studying later on after I had become an expert trainer and a market development manager. This was really just through my free courses that I took, and also just availing myself wherever there was an opportunity to make an impact, either at a multinational company. I would just go and knock and say, hey, I want a job and I want to do this and I'll help you, and you don't have to pay me much. And this just how I managed to do it. And I feel that that is the more unconventional way of doing it. And there's a couple of ways that you can, as I've already said, you could be a brand ambassador or a promoter. You can look for market related part or learnerships. There's lots of learnerships and free courses, as I've already said. And you can offer yourself to be an assistant, in companies that do what you would eventually want to see yourself achieving. Next slide, please. Okay, so just as I wrap up, some quick tips. It's very in just like in any career. One of the key skills as a marketer is to be able to network. And your networking as a business person as well, for me, networking is extremely crucial, in your career advancement, whether as a business person or even just a person on a career path in corporate. You have to be able to learn how to network. You have to be able to join, industry groups. LinkedIn is an amazing platform with lots of people who share free information, free courses. There's groups that are specific for marketing, PR, and branding, that where you get to be with, you get to ask questions from experts, and you get information from experts, and you get exposure to how things function within the industry. You can attend conferences. There's a lot of conferences within the industry. Also, you can find those on LinkedIn. High schools usually have these programs where you have take a child to work kind of programs. You get vacation work as well, with different companies, and with different professions, different professionals within the field. It is very important that you also get a mentor, even at the tender age of or at the tender age of grade 10, or prior to that, or even at grade 12, to be able to kind of hold your hand through and advise you of opportunities and give you insights. And then obviously you would have to be very well versed on what specific jobs require and specific companies will require from you, and do your research. The industry changes, and you have to level up your skills, whether you're able to go to university or not. You have to find a way to level up your skills and your education for you to be employable, and for you to be able to enter the rooms that wouldn't be ordinarily open to you. You have to have somewhat of a way to get there. And the only way to get there is to kind of be very proactive in your approach. You have to be a continuous learner. You have to be hungry for knowledge, and you must be keeping up with what is happening around you. Even if you do not have particularly, as I've said, the resources to get you to to take the conventional route to being a marketing manager, brand manager, or a marketing director. There are alternatives, and it is very important that you kind of take yourself outside of your comfort zone, and go looking for these opportunities. Platforms like Youth Evolve are really critical, because we are always sharing information. I don't believe that your success, your failure should define where you end up, or your trajectory in life. You really have to create your own way, one brick at a time, but you will eventually get there. And that is it for me. Thank you so much.
I was talking and I didn't realize I didn't unmute. Thank you so much. Sorry. for your presentation. It was quite informative. I hope it people learn from that. So now we're going to the second we're going to the second presentation with Chris. Hi, Chris. Please unmute.
Hello. I also didn't recognize I was on mute. I'm still a bit captivated by Zama Mel's presentation. So many great
Yeah.
insights, and just how she really transformed that idea around marketing, and how the youth can really grow and learn by just acquiring the knowledge and getting that experience that they need. So thank you for
Definitely.
that. Okay,
Thank
so thank you everyone for having me. I'm gonna try and be as bubbly and as fun as well. But yes, my name is Chris. Background on me is I am a digital marketer, but I also started as a above the line strategist, and I'll go through what that actually is. I have a love for fashion. I have a love for hiking. I actually live in the wonderful city of Cape Town. I moved here in 2016. I did live in Johannesburg for over 10 years. I actually started my career in Durban, where I studied, and I'll go through a bit about what I studied to get through to where I am today. I think back then, even as a child, I remember just watching fashion shows, and I think there was a program called Gillette World Sport, and just being loving the multitude of culture, clothing, language, um, even just being a social being, and how these different constructs can make you a very enlightened person and even have a different perspective. To be fair, my upbringing, my parents were very strict. It was very rare for them to let me go to anybody's house. What they did have in the house is they had a lot of books. And back then, it wasn't as you didn't have the phone, for instance, to sort of get information a lot. You really had to go through a lot of books. My dad had encyclopedias. Uh, they really were not part of the decoration, because I've seen some people are using them as decoration now. You were actually in it because there's just nothing to do. You every time I'd say, "Can I go to a friend's house?" my mom would just say no. So I thought that idea actually expanded my mind a little bit, because in nurturing your mind and nurturing different perspectives allows you to be very strategic, and strategic in that you're able to tell certain patterns as they happen. You're able to get certain skill sets that people could use at some point in life. So it really broadened my mind. School did a very good job. High school, and varsity, it did a very good job in training me for the job world. But I think more of the active mind listening and the mind prep that I had to go through sort of led me to know who I am, because I think it's so critical for you as the youth to really own the space and the purpose that you came into this world for. And everybody has a purpose, and it is to do social good, and it is something of value that you can be contributing. You don't necessarily just have to follow leaders. You can be a leader yourself and find a space for yourself to grow and have good ideas and have good social impact, and just live a very fulfilled life. I don't know if you can still see me through my screen, but I'm a digital strategist, but my phone is the absolute basic of phones. I'm not saying that it limits my expertise at digital marketing, but it still allows me to zone out and not have to be so interconnected all the time, so that I can come up with new ideas. I can see new things and bring that value to a marketplace, whether it's a work marketplace, or it's a peer on peer marketplace, or even just being in a family space. How you contribute to communications, or how you contribute towards conversations, how you lead, how you understand, how you even employ active listening, because sometimes thinking comes from active listening, right? So I really try to hone in on those skills to try and be excellent at my job, which I really love, guys. It's really exciting. It really, really is. And yeah, and I've embraced the whole thing. And I just hope that you'll find your own space and you will do great things in this space. Next slide. So from an educational background, I'll just go start from my university level. I actually, when I finished high school, I didn't really know where I was going to go. I just knew I did high school in the Free State area, and I was desperate as an 18-year-old to just get away from my parents because they never let me leave the house, right? So I was trying to find my freedom, trying to find my balance, and I ended up in KZN. I was a Howard baby at the University of KZN. It was the University of Natal back then. And I did a Bachelor of Arts in Media and Communications. So I was in the Human Sciences faculty. So Human Sciences, they study all the sociology, psychology, all the human thoughts. And I actually think that was exactly where I needed to be, because I am such a sociologist. I love social interactions and seeing how various cultures activate and navigate their own world. I studied media and communications. It was such a breeze and ease for me because, again, it's the understanding of how culture creates language, which then creates another culture of social being, and how all of those constructs sort of lend to a bigger image of being an actual human being on Earth, and understanding how media then plays a role. It's such a pivot. I see the underestimation of what media actually does in the world to the human man, to the layman man, those who really understand the power of it. But media is essentially one of the more critical channels of movement in society. If you want to move society in a negative way, you will use media. If you want to move it in a positive way, you will use media. If you want to infuse a culture of anything, fashion, icons, I mean, look at the celebrities, political, social, you use the channel of media, and understanding its background and where it came from. Yeah, you can sort of see how it changes, but you kind of still see that common thread of application throughout the years. And you really, in that study alone, it is really fun. And I would really employ just some sort of understanding about the role of media through history to sort of lend yourself better as a media strategist and even as a digital marketer. So yes, that was me at UKZN. And then I wanted to extend, because what happened with universities, university tends to be very theoretical, not as practical as it should be. And therefore you tend to not be able to specialize. I do also want to intercede that after I did the Bachelor of Arts, I did go into a professional environment to sort of see what the taste of where my career should go. Hence, the following educational references I've got below were informed by my wanting to grow further from a career that I'm already starting to build. So I would say maybe 3 or 4 years into my profession, I did a media management certificate through the AAA School of Advertising. They really trained me as well in terms of how to use television, how to use radio, how to use newspapers, how to use outdoor, for instance, as a communication channel, and what do they achieve. Thinking about things like outdoor. Outdoor is very much location specific. You'll find that certain brands are more communicative on the highway. They're really wanting to connect with cars and people on the move, versus television, which is where you want to sit with people in a lounge and perhaps communicate through them through a sense of value of programming, right? So there's soapies, there's news, there's entertainment, all of that. And you can then say, oh, I have this brand or this piece of communication, and it will land better with a very humorous approach, a humorous family approach. And therefore you can find programming on television that will sort of help amplify your communication. Because thinking about communication is the environment to which it's consumed allows it to be more effective over the other. So understanding things like that allows you to, again, add more strategic insight into how you develop your media channel representation. Out after the AAA School of Advertising, I went to a school of branding, again specializing in a specific field. It's branding specific school, which is the Vega School of Branding. I did a brand communications management, and here my challenge to me was I understood the idea around media, but I wasn't clear around the branding, and branding itself involves another discipline of imagery, words, emotive connections and stuff like that. So I really needed to understand my profession as a supplier to some of my clients, because I did work with really good brands in my career, understanding where they're coming from when they translate their need for a media output. What was I supposed to do? So it was an exciting educational layer. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a different school of thinking, because I'd already been in the media space, but thinking about brands and how they evolve, how they develop, how to find success in that field. Vega was very instrumental in that. Then really later on in my career, I went back to being a student again with the youngsters. I probably was the oldest. I think I was like 10 years. The one behind me was like 10 years behind me. So I really took the courage to say, I have been in school a while back, and there is a refresher, because again, media is a changing landscape. Things are always evolving, new technologies are coming out every day. And I went to learn how to be a desktop publisher. That really entails understanding how to use some of the new creative tools, how to create designs, and how to see if a communication that you've created is slightly impactful. Because, as a strategist, you're always trying to communicate with people, right? And you want to make sure that your message is landing in a very impactful way. And design actually helps associate that faster. The attention span of people is now declining. So you're kind of having to think about what is the most innovative way to sort of lay out a piece of communication and let it be absorbed quite quickly. I also studied how to do web design. That was a little bit of coding. So I was always scared of coding when I saw it. So it took me a long time to really get into it, but I've honed in on that skill, a skill that has allowed me to understand a lot of how the infrastructure of these new technologies is being built and how to really use them. So yeah, I took a risk to go back, and I wasn't earning my income anymore. I was literally being a student. I had a backpack, and I was struggling through the lunches and struggling through getting to the classes. It was a nice culture shock to be back in it. I'm glad I'm not there anymore, but I'm also glad for the sacrifice. And I think the idea there is you might need to keep making some sacrifices to be excellent and to really pursue the dreams that you want to achieve. Okay, guys. So yeah, my timeline. There's various media agencies that I worked with, multinational. Some of them are local, some of them are Black owned, some of them are European. So I really went through a huge facet of knowledge going through my career. Some of the biggest brands really that are in the media and communication space. It was exciting to start my career with a big agency called Ogilvy. I think it's called Ogilvy and Mather, one of the biggest in the world, and having to learn about how the nature of media is applied as a profession was a very enlightening. In fact, my mentor was actually our media director. I started my career as a media buyer. And my media director, who just saw my eagerness, and every day he would give me something new to do. And sometimes I was taking actually his work, because he was like, I'm not doing this, I can just get, maybe an intern or something. Don't use that don't use your position as I'm not willing to learn anything more, I'm just going to do my job. I learned a lot faster by having that opportunity for my media director to always offload some of his work because I didn't have to wait to learn this profession as long as it took. It should have taken me. I actually started learning on the job because I had all of these roles and he was mentoring me through that. So another critical learning for you would be, who is your mentor in this space? Who are you looking up to? And don't just look at what it is that they've achieved, maybe even looking at the lessons they had to go through, look at their journey, how they started, their background, and get some tips and tricks, get some valuable notes from that end, and that will really progress your knowledge and your building of your career into something really robust. Late 2018, I opened my own agency again, Peer and Influence, coming out of all of that knowledge and infusing my ideas and my experience and my thinking into brands, into the media landscape. And the thrilling part is always watching your piece of communication go live. Those elements of that live is, oh my God, how is this message going to be received? I hope it does what it's supposed to do. I hope it impacts people in the right way. That is always the benefit and the hope that I have. And that's why I love this career so much. Next slide. So thinking about media, right? And thinking about the small landscape that it's not small, it's very impactful, the digital landscape. It was always about the device that you have. Is it a computer? Is it a cell phone? Is it an iPad or a tablet? As that piece of technology evolved, so did the services and so did the discipline of digital marketing. So when we started, it was really the basic phone, the Nokia, where it was just the ringtone, and the ringtone was not as monotony as ever. And the innovation was when all of a sudden somebody's ringtone changed, and then you're like, wait, you have a different ringtone? I don't have that selection. How do I get that selection? And people started getting curious about, is there more services that are possible? We came through with something called BlackBerry. BlackBerry really gave us this idea of social media, and they had a messaging system that you could really message anyone in a live environment. Whereas the previous phone, the SMS was just, you could take 2 months or 2 weeks for somebody to respond to you, wouldn't matter. But then there was this instant messaging that came through with the BlackBerry. That was super exciting. That means you could communicate running a little bit faster. And you think about how that applies to media when information is quick and it's actually two-way. So if you're watching TV is literally just speaking to you. You can't really speak back into it. But this instant messaging idea, all of a sudden messaging is becoming transactional. What does that mean for society? Society is starting to move ideas quite freely, whereas before it was constrained by, take for instance, if the radio or TV show just, it speaks to you. You can't speak back and say, hey, I don't like that, or hey, that's not something that appeals to me, or hey, that's fascinating. You can't say that, so it can't keep giving you the reward for that interest. Whereas now when messaging starts, you can able to engage with it and contact it and give it concept, it can actually start evolving. And the biggest innovation that came after the instant messenger was things like iPod. iPod is all of a sudden you can store your music on a phone and you can keep playing it. And now you've got creative art that you can reference at any time that you want by going through what you're calling an app store. That app store as well was an innovation. And then now you've got the modern iPhone where you can literally run a whole business on just your phone. You can have your suppliers, you can have your clients, you can do your invoicing, you can communicate your services just from this little small device. So you can be so connected and so transactional in your movements as a daily person. And that is honestly an innovation on its own. So the innovation of devices impacted how media is being translated. And then the services that came out of that, when before we used to print pamphlets and talk about the services that you could get on the ringtones and SMSs and all sorts of funny things. And those were very much still one of those one-way transactionals now. And inputting something like a Google, which is a search engine is now able to give you a directory of all these products that opened up the industry in a massive way, because you wanted to be on this directory, right? You want to be in front of people's eyes at any given moment in time and being accessed from all over the world. It was literally a revolutionary in technology. And then obviously adding in the social media, now you can upload your pictures, you can find people that are similar and connecting to you in a very meaningful way. It can be your own personal thing, or it can be a group. So yes, there's a lot of technological impact on media and marketing and how people are making social connections. And that's why this industry of digital marketing is such a fascinating career move. Next. So guys, literally digital marketing is again about having information at your fingertips, right? So use of digital channels to market a product or a service in order to reach customers, businesses, decision makers, or even publics of interest. If you're interested in just connecting with your aunt on Facebook at a touch, you just have to be on the same social platform, on the same area. Information is almost instant. And if you're going to go through the evolution of things like media, you will see that it was only perhaps even an elite system that had access to certain information, whereas other general publics were only given so much of a tidbit, and therefore an elite system could continue to thrive more readily with access to goods, access to more services, and they could enjoy the really rich fulfillment of life where other groups could not get that. And with the opening up of the digital space, you are now able to really be free and express yourself and really, really get the knowledge and the information that you require to be impactful. Also understanding technology moves faster than people. So the adoption of technology is also at a slower rate than the technologies that are being developed, right? So, and you never know which one is going to go into the market faster than the other. If I think if people knew, that would be another elevation as well of progression. But now you've got the information at your fingertips, and it is how you use it that allows you to be successful. And think about what it is that what it is that drives you and your passion. And I will tell you now, on top of everything, the guys that are leading are the ones who have the innovative ideas and are able to execute them. So it's easy to have the information in front of you, but what you do with it is another responsibility, and it requires some sort of fearlessness, some sort of learning, some sort of understanding that you're going to make mistakes, right? You're going to make mistakes, and it is those mistakes that are going to allow you to get onto the progression of the next. So yeah, I really embrace you to take on those channels. So let's think about digital marketing in terms of what it can entail. Email marketing is one of those things where you can easily be in somebody's inbox with a piece of communication every morning, in the evening, or even at night, because they're so connected to their cell phones, right? Social media marketing is also a form of digital marketing where you're connecting with people on social platforms. You're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the amazing TikTok. Then from there, you're in content marketing. So imagine if you're a blogger and you tell people about what you're wearing, what colors you've got, your personality, or even some of the travel. Oh, I've been to Limpopo. This is what it looked like when I was there. I was there in Durban. Being that influential, because somebody can't really travel at the time, so they'll travel through you. So that piece could be a very interesting way of using media. And then there's something called search engine marketing. Search engine marketing is an interesting one because, again, it speaks to that directory that Google has. It's a directory where you're able to list your business, you're listing your services, and you're asking if a client comes in, if a customer comes in and puts a little word in Google, I am looking for a digital marketing agency, up comes Period Influence, up comes Youth Evolve. There's endless possibility of understanding how search engine marketing works, but then it is a very valuable practice, but it's also, it needs a little bit of strategic thinking. Then you've got pay-per-click, is where you pay advertisers tend to pay for every click. So imagine you're on your cell phone and you see a little branded piece of communication. Every time you click on that, if it's relevant to you, somebody gets charged, normally the brand or the advertiser. And that quick connection gives the advertiser either a lead that they can follow up in their business to say, hey, I see you're interested in what I have to do. So let's connect and let's have a meaningful discussion. So there's various facets to digital marketing, and you can really specialize in perhaps everything if you can be a jack of all trades. It's a lot of disciplines even within each. Or you can try to specialize, and specializing, you could say, I'm going to be just a blogger, I'm going to go into the content marketing field, or I'm just going to be a specialist in how email. I mean, you may think emails can be innovative, but there's some really innovative emails out there. I challenge you to go and search for innovative email marketing creative. The guys are really doing some stellar stuff. So there's very exciting places that you can go. In terms of digital marketing courses, there is some free resources for you guys to use. For instance, you've got the Google Digital Academy. You can go and do a learnership through there. Google actually trains you very well for the industry. I think it gives you a very nice background as to how the digital sphere is working, and it's very current to the environment that we're in. Then you've got Facebook as well. If you want to learn how Instagram and the lovely Facebook is navigating how content is being displayed, how advertisers come onto the market, how marketing people can actually communicate with consumers, I challenge you to go and have a look at that. And then you've got LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is also a host of online courses and certificates that you can just delve into a lot of specialized skills, from web development, personal development, even entrepreneurship, which again, you can get as much learning as you can, but you really do need a lot of hands-on experience, but it does guide you. So guys, these are free resources. Again, we're living in an information age where information is free. You can develop the skills, but the most important skill, like Zama Mel was saying, was you have to be in the market to practice, to learn, to make mentorship, and to make the mistakes. The mistakes are not what defines us. It's how we grow from them. And literally, there's no shortcut about it. There's no shortcut about it. Make your mistakes, learn what you can learn, and just build from there. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was very informative, and thank you so much for your time. Please stay on the line and for the questions at the end. And now we're going to Jabulo. Okay. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
You can start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Morolong Maratua here. Very weird being on this side of a information session. I'm usually the person on the other side, managing and the production of it all. So I'm in the business of specifically managing the content created in association with brands, right? So if we can go to the next slide. Before we even get to talking about branding, I really want to make it clear that branding is not marketing. These are not the same fields. So branding, as I have it here, is the set of practices, activities, signs, signifiers that are associated with the identity of either an individual, a company, or an organization. Now, you need to understand that means it's literally just any kinds of associations that are part of the way you identify something, right? So this can be the actual design of a given product. That is part of the brand. Product design falls well within branding. So say the actual appearance of a Coke can, even before we even get to the logo, but the actual appearance of the Coke can is part of its branding. Right? Now, marketing are the activities a company or business takes to try and get the attention of peoples whom which they're trying to actually sell a given product or service to. So now, I want it to be clear. This means that there's a relationship between branding and marketing, right? The marketing is always going to be about getting the attention of your customer base, right? So to us, the branding peoples, we are now effectively working off of their audience. So we effectively determine what gets done with their attention once we have it, right? And that could be the wildest things, like the strangest things. Mercedes has actually licensed a specific smell that they have now put in their cars, in their cars diffusers. So this means that right now that is part of their brand. This smell is part of the brand. Can we go to the next slide? So let's say you now think that you can actually go into branding, actually help build businesses, organizations, and maybe even individual people's brands. Let's say you think you can do that. There are a few ways in which this could kind of play out, right? So I'm gonna start with education. So you're gonna need a bachelor's degree more or less in either economics, communication, design, marketing, more or less somewhere around those given fields. I know that weirdly enough, psychology is actually one of those degrees that would help you a lot in understanding how to motivate, in effect, the customer base. Once that attention has been held through a marketing strategy, you know how to convert it into behaviors and patterns of behavior, how to actually understand the way people respond. So psychology is actually wildly involved in the process of developing a brand. Now, I had the divine pleasure of getting into branding very sideways. I did actually study design, specifically multimedia, and I came into it literally just as a graphic designer. For the longest time, as a graphic designer, I did it freelance for. I've been like freelancing for over 7 years now, and along the way, one of my clients just kept insisting on coming back. And this repeat client one day just was like, okay, so I'm now realizing that there's a lot in the marketing strategy that's missing key pieces of media. And that media now needs to have a consistent kind of tone, feel, and motivation behind it. So I was then brought on, no longer just simply as a isolated designer, but as the designer who manages the brand's identity, how people associate with that brand. Can we go to the next slide? Now, there is the fun other part, right? So let's say you don't want to be doing the sideways hustle into a brand by either moving from marketing into branding, or in my case, from design into branding. And you don't want to go through the whole education process and the formal studies. Let's say you literally are just working on building your own brand, right? You run your own company, your own business, or let's say you are an artist of sorts, right? And you're trying to get the attention of the greater public. So how do you go about building your brand? Now, the identity of a brand, you kind of need to start by understanding who is the audience, right? So who are the people you are trying to actually appeal to? This isn't to say that you need to make your brand exclusionary, but you need to understand the way in which they think, right? Let's say we have, for example, the audience that you're aiming for the attention of, the people you're trying to like get on board with you, are people aged between 23 and 35, right? You want people who have liquid funds, but also no long-term commitments, more or less, right? No fixed term commitments. So you're kind of aiming for people who maybe don't have kids and who have expendable income, so to speak. So that's obviously not going to include anyone under the age of 23. And reasonably speaking, not realistically above the age of 35, because those people are going to have those funds tied up in things. So that's going to be the market you can be aiming for. You need to understand the way they think, their purchasing habits, and their behaviors before you can actually start making decisions on how to market yourself or brand yourself, to them. Like, one of the things that I can definitely say for peoples under the age of 21 is there is a kind of priority that is given to the idea of being onto the newest thing, right? So everyone wants to believe that they're a maven, they're picking up something new. So these peoples would, so to speak, respond to exclusivity, the idea of exclusivity. So your brand needs to give that kind of aesthetic, it needs to feed the aesthetic of being non-corporate. So do not go corporate in that branding, and very exclusive. So you now need to list all of those kinds of associations that would form in the minds of people who are going to be viewing your branding, people who are going to be engaging with your branding or your actual product itself. You need to now list out all of the things you want them to think and feel when they engage with your product, right? Do they want to feel like they've gotten onto the newest thing, the hottest new thing? Do they want to feel that way when they engage with your product? List it. List all of those associations. And then you want to identify all of the competitors, all of the other people in the market of selling what you're selling who have successfully managed to leverage their brand to achieve exactly the things that you have on your list, the associations that you want to create. Now you're seeing how other brands do it. And then you just develop your strategy and your approach based off of using as a kind of reference point other existing brands that have done it before. And I'm not saying here that you want to be getting this list of potential like references entirely as a means of like you need to copy from them. Sometimes you get that list just to know what's happening in the market and what not to do. Sometimes knowing the competitors is a good way of understanding how to make yourself stand out. How can you stand out if you don't know how everyone else looks, right? So that's going to be critical. Understanding how other brands behave, how other brands engage, how other brands are received. Can we go to the next slide? So branding and marketing in the 21st century is actually wild. Like it is, I mean, it used to be as simple as you create a logo for your business, you print out some business cards, you have a sign in front of the business's door and everyone moves on. That's the branding we're done here. Now branding expands to so much more with the introduction of radio. We now have as branding the voice that the business now carries, either through radio advertisement or through radio interviews. Like that is part of a branding strategy. There's figuring out, do you want to go with interviews or advertisements? And then the invention of television. And it's like, okay, so now we need to figure out what do we look like and how do we present ourselves when we advertise for television. And now we have the internet. Wow, the internet complicated things so much because you now need to figure out your website, right? So you're going to have your website for your brand. Now, once again, this can still apply to an individual person. And this website, how do you present it? How do you present that homepage, its navigation style? This is part of branding. All of this as an experience is part of the branding experience. And now going even further, social media as a further tool. Also, you need to understand how regularly do you post. Now, this might be more marketing than it is branding, but how regularly do you post, the tone in which you post, right? And if you're going to be using visual aids in your posts, how regularly you're going to be using those, what would be the consistent style in which you would do this. This is all vital and critically important. And now we have to also deal with search engine optimization. Oh, search engine optimization. You now need to understand that built into each search engine are a specific set of key terms and phrases that will be associated with a given brand. So you now need to understand what are the associations that you want to be making online. And that is critical to being the first result when someone searches for your business or even searches for something tangential to your business. Because more than anything, yes, you do want to be ever present. Can we go to the next slide? That's the previous one. There we go. Now trends. It is deeply fascinating to watch and observe, but brands cannot stay the same. They can't, right? And I'm not even talking about changing to match a new generation. Even within a given era or generation, a brand cannot afford to stay the same. It has to continually change and evolve. And so brands will always end up incorporating pieces of trends that currently exist. So this means you need to always remain kind of cognizant of what's culturally relevant at that time. And you need to be aware of what people are responding to at that time. Now, as someone who studied design formally, I understand, oh, yes, all of these rules and principles and philosophies and theories on how to make a good design, but that doesn't make a good design timely. You need to understand the trends and how to manipulate those rules and guidelines on how to make a design, on how to present a brand, on how to present a business in a way that allows it to stay relevant. You always have to be staying relevant. So one of the things that you probably always need to be checking to understand how it's being received by the market, more or less, is your visual design styles, your color palettes, the methods and means of engagement, right? Like, let's say you have a social media page for your given business. Let's say you're on X. And now, how regularly do you actually post would affect how your business is received. Now, back in the old days, posting regularly would have been seen as good brand engagement. But now, posting regularly might be seen as too needy of a business, right? Like it's like, another ad post, and then people will scroll past and disengage. And you need to be aware of these kinds of behaviors that the market that you're in is responding to, and adjust your behavior as these trends change. And lastly, as weird as it may sound, sounds and songs. Yo, sounds and songs change. They change. I love the best example. I thoroughly love this. Is the evolution of the Nokia ringtone. It's such a crisp way of understanding how trends influence the way the sounds associated with your brand evolve, and they have to. These sounds have to change. Next one. So, logo trends. Logos are some of the most interesting places to see the way trends evolve, right? Like we can see in the examples I've put up here, I've got Burger King, Pepsi, and Google. And we can see how in the beginning, right, it was very word heavy. Like logos back then were about getting the name as visible as possible. I really am appalled by the fact that I didn't include the Apple logo. The Apple logo is another brilliant example of what I'm getting at here. So for a while, we started out with just having a sign or a symbol and then words, just words. We had to have the name written out every time, right? And then logos realized that once they achieved a kind of market saturation, they're in there, people know them, they could remove those words, right? A brilliant example that I've included here is Pepsi. Right? The current Pepsi logo doesn't actually need to be accompanied by the word Pepsi to still remain the same logo. It is still the Pepsi logo without the word Pepsi there at all. And the best example of this, which I'm once again genuinely apologetic I didn't include, is Apple. You recognize Apple now by just the sign, by just the symbol of the apple. You do not need to see the word Apple anywhere near it to recognize it. And that's how the logo kind of evolved. And for a while, this one actually does kind of stress me. For a while in the early 2000s, we got logos that were 3D. And that was the trend. Like, all logos had to be 3D. And I still remember Windows back then, Windows Vista, having the three-dimensional taskbar, like with a gradient shading on it. And it's very unnecessary. But that was the trend at the time. Icons and symbols back then had to be 3D, and that as a trend bled into logo design. So we ended up with a whole bunch of 3D logos. And then we moved into flat design. Flat design ended up kind of more as an evolution out of necessity, right? 3D logos became just impractical to try and print. So companies had to come up with flat designs so that they would be able to print on different mediums their logos. So gone were the gradients, gone were the drop shadows, gone with the 3D effects. They needed something that would be easy enough to print, even if it is on stitching. They needed to be able to do this. And then those evolutions of those logos became a new trend, flat design, easier to see and easier to engage with. Another one of the influential reasons for this is these. A screen that is this small, this tiny, is going to make a very intricate, detailed 3D logo kind of difficult to see, especially on when dealing with an audience that is visually impaired. That does get in the way of the brand being properly received. I mean, think about it. When you're scrolling through social media and you see a username, the icon, the user's icon is like so tiny, so tiny. That is a very small space. Now, if you're going to be doing drop shadows and 3D effects on that tiny little icon, it's not going to be recognizable. It's just going to blend in and be impossible to see. So they had to go real simple so that it can be seen really small. And this is just one of those brilliant things I love about just examining logos, because this just kind of proves how important it is for you to, when managing a brand and how a brand is received, that you need to keep an eye on trends and behavior. Next slide. Okay. Well, I unfortunately do not have much more that I can offer. And I do hope that I've at least been able to help with some information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was very informative. I think now we're coming to the end, but before we actually close, I'd like you guys to engage, and it will be quite interesting. We didn't receive any questions, but I think it will be crucial to have an engagement of people in the marketing and branding. And I love the fact that you guys bring, different sides of this marketing and branding. That it's like a huge it's a huge field. So I would like to hear you guys engage.
Okay. All right. Okay. Engage. Okay. Well, I was just still laughing at how Njabulo was like, next slide. And then it's like, oh, I'm done. But what I really, really appreciated about Njabulo's presentation is the fact that the evolution of the logo, that is very interesting because especially, I'm so mad at you for not including Apple. Oh,
I
but
know, I know. It's such a good example. Like it's
it's
such a good
such a
example.
it's such a perfect example. But touching on the branding element, I used to earlier on, before I truly really got into the marketing space, I used to hear people say, the BMW logo is designed in such a way that it's psychologically it communicates exactly that the fact that they are sheer branding, what do they call it, sheer driving experience. But also what was really interesting with what you said is the fact that there is no way of delivering successful branding without understanding the psychological influence behind it. But what would be very interesting is, like, what local brands have you noticed or realized that they are really doing this branding thing like really great? What would be your your view?
I would have to say Basu is doing the most in terms of branding. Like they are very recognizable and very easy to kind of they have an identity that's very like clear, very clean, very you do not confuse it. I mean, there are obviously other brands with very like easily identifiable kind of niches. Like I know Woolworths isn't necessarily like specifically South African, but Woolworths is another brilliant example of this. And I love the way Woolworths stores look. Like it's so perfect. It's so the brand synergy is just it's impeccable. It is impeccable. The spacing of their aisles, the height of their shelves speaks to the idea of minimalist elegance, and it works. It works, and I know it sounds weird to geek out about the spacing of shelves, but it really does help kind of sell the brand's identity as elegant and prestigious. And yeah, like I think those two are definitely my favorite right now.
And on your side, Chris, which brand, South African brand that you think is really killing it, from a branding and marketing perspective, or even digitally?
Yeah, I think some digital brands are quite nice, but I think what's fascinating me is recognizing people now as brands, right? So the
Mm,
personalities of, you don't even have to be have come out of TV or radio these days. You are a
yeah.
podcaster, you are a content creator, you are an entrepreneur, and even that entrepreneurship is itself is creating personal brands. So I think the idea of personal branding,
Yeah.
especially in the digital era, has become such an interesting discipline as to what is it that I represent in the world? How do
Mm,
I want people to see me? How do I want people to find me? Brands that I'm loving, I love Bonang Mateba, I'm loving Mini Dlamini, and that transitional person that is able to still keep some kind of consistent holding, even though conflict happens in their life, because life happens, and being
mm.
able to share that in a very responsible manner, because I think you actually need to be a very responsible person on the digital era these days. So I love watching those personal brands and how people are branding themselves online. It's very
That
fascinating.
is very fascinating. Absolutely. I think a brand that I truly, truly admire is Tiger Brands. What's the name? Not Tiger Brand, Tiger Woods brand. That's a very strong brand from what happened to him about 7, 8 years ago. For him to, and it had nothing really to do with him, basically he just focused on his craft. And I think that's very important for a brand, that in this digital age, information travels very fast. It travels very fast. It can make or break your brand. However, it's about how you come back, how you come back from that. I love that brand as well. Yeah, I think we don't have much time left. I think we have about
Yeah.
3 minutes. Yes. So it
What
was
an
really
exciting time. I think coming from a marketing to media to digital branding, the whole facet, and there's so many entry points for the youth to take. I
yeah.
welcome them to just get into the mix of things and find what makes you tick and innovate where you feel you can innovate. We haven't seen anything yet. We are just at the beginning of this era of new technology
Yeah.
and branding.
Especially with AI. I saw a whole new AI influencer.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, AI is going to allow for a lot of the automation of creating content.
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to help brands establish themselves in the beginning. You know, when you don't have the finances to, say, hire a whole branding manager or hiring a designer, being
Mm,
able to, use AI is going to be really helpful with like getting started at least.
yeah, 100%. Very exciting. I'm still not sure about getting a virtual person. Um, I don't know.
Just
That's
I think as a human being, the actual stimuli, because if your stimuli is just one sided, which is what you're seeing and what you're hearing, there's feel, there's taste, there's touch, there's color, there's senses. So if you miss out on all of that, and AI does not have that, you can't
mm,
teach and machine how to actually experience. They're trying to, but let's see
yeah.
what I mean. I've seen them trying to make humans before, and so I'm very excited to live in an era where there's AI, but then there's also the challenge of the human being to find other stimuli, because it's not just one side, it's not just the five, and
Mm,
just find a way of collaborating with technology in a very meaningful and a very positive manner. Let's not be
mm.
afraid.
And just to add one more thing, this does kind of go back to that point we were making before, Zama, about understanding the psychology of how things are going to be received, understanding like how people will actually engage with your brand.
Mm.
And AI right now, I don't think would understand the full psychology of the consumer correctly. So
Exactly.
it does stand to reason that we're not quite there yet, because that psychological element isn't quite there yet. So it is crucial right now that even if we do attempt to use AI, that we do it in a way that still pays attention to the human element, right? We do need to bring
Mm.
that human element in there. I know that with some, I've tried tinkering around with AI, and so many times I need to edit after
I
the
did.
fact. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
still not quite there yet.
Yeah, we definitely are some I think it was the creator of Chat GPT, I think, that said that, oh, no, actually it was a military guy who creates weapons for the military in the US, and he said that this at where we are now is where the internet was when Bill Gates started his business. So that's where AI is at this point in time. So we are still very much at its infancy stage. It's just very interesting to kind of like, wait in anticipation to see the evolution that actually happens, especially for our industry,
Industry.
which is what I was touching on in terms of innovation. We are going to have to, we should have been adjusting already to the fact that there is an influencer who is an AI created individual with perfect everything, who has got almost 100,000 followers. So that's an opportunity on its own. There is 100,000 eyes on an AI fictitious individual. It's very interesting for us to kind of like engage in a different conversation of how do we actually take advantage of that opportunity to get brands out there. It would be very interesting to see also how the brands actually receive, an AI influencer. That would be a
Yeah.
very interesting one. you know, yeah. Thank you so much, guys. This has been
Thank
very
you. It's been
interesting. Thank you, Chris,
amazing.
for joining us.
Yay.
Um,
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you to Ndima, our founder of Youth Evolve, for having us. Thank you, and Jabulo, my right hand man. I thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who has joined us for this live. And over to you, Ndima.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to you, the speakers, with your information. Information is power, and we are grateful that you made time to share this information. And I hope that for those who are watching or listening to this, make use of the information.
Mm.
If you need to get hold of us, info@youthevolve.co.za. From our team, it's a wrap. Thank you so much.